Let's jump right into this explainer, because this case study is wild. We've all heard those absolute horror stories about toxic environments, right? Credit stealing colleagues, situations that usually end with just vague hopes for karma. Well, today we are looking at an absolute masterclass in how an invisible worker handled a major workplace reckoning. And they didn't do it with anger. No, they did it with cold, undeniable data. This is a story of how meticulous documentation can completely outmaneuver smooth talking. So let's set the scene here. Okay, imagine spending 3 grueling years building the critical quarterly performance model for your entire department. Now, officially, sure, it was billed as a quote-unquote team project. But unofficially, come on, you were the one staying late. You were the one rebuilding those massive, complex spreadsheets literally every single time leadership asked the new question. You did all the heavy lifting. But then the unthinkable happens. The colleague who sat, 2 desks away? The one whose name just happened to be CC'd on the same emails? Yeah, she gets the promotion instead of you. You basically had to sit there and watch someone else climb the ladder using the exact rungs that you built. And here's the kicker. The creator of this report, our invisible worker, didn't actually uncover the real truth behind this whole promotion until 4 whole months later. Initially, they actually almost let it go. They kind of rationalized it, thinking, well, maybe I'm just not cut out for the highly visible parts of the job. Which leaves us with this incredible, almost impossible question. How do you catch a promotion thief? Especially when they've already won, right? The promotion is signed, sealed, and delivered. Well, it turns out the answer lies in the exact same data they used to steal the spotlight in the first place. You really have to consider the deeply dysfunctional dynamic at play here. While one person was staying at the office until 8 p.m. and just totally buried in the numbers, understanding exactly why the metrics moved, the other person, the coworker, was playing a completely different game. Basically, whenever senior leadership strolled by to ask about the numbers, she was always the one jumping up to answer. She had completely memorized these surface-level talking points and just used them to charm the leadership team, completely masking the fact that she had zero foundational knowledge of the actual work. This creates such a profound trap. It's perfectly described here, that slow drip of noticing you're invisible in your own project. It's brutal. Because, as dedicated workers, we tend to tell ourselves that the work will eventually speak for itself, right? We think, if I just keep my head down, produce quality results, management is going to notice. But as this source material makes painfully clear, the work doesn't always speak for itself if someone else is actively holding the microphone. And honestly, that is exactly what the promoted coworker was counting on. But, the perfect crime always has a slip-up. The entire situation absolutely cracked wide open when the creator was accidentally looped into a reply-all email thread. Remember, this happened 4 months after the promotion had already gone through. It was an email that absolutely, under no circumstances, should have included the original creator of the report. And what was sitting inside this email? It wasn't just some casual office gossip. Oh no, it was a literal smoking gun. In that email, the promoted coworker was actively asking a third-party vendor to, and I quote, adjust the Q3 comparison baseline. Yeah, she was literally asking them to manipulate the numbers to make her team look stronger right before a massive, crucial board review. This wasn't a typo, this wasn't some tiny rounding error, this was the intentional, calculated falsification of the very report our invisible worker had originally built. Seeing this, the creator finally understood. They hadn't just been out-talked in a meeting, they had been actively sabotaged. Now, right here is where most people would lose it. But the creator realized an emotional reaction would just give the coworker the upper hand. To actually win this, they needed an airtight, completely undeniable system. So pivoting from pure emotion to just cold, calculated execution, they followed 4 exact steps to investigate the sabotage. Let's break down exactly how they executed this absolutely brilliant tactical sequence. Step 1 was absolutely vital. Do not confront. Look, by not confronting the coworker immediately with what was really only partial information, the creator prevented her from panicking and, building some plausible cover story. Instead, the creator simply forwarded that damning email to a personal account to secure the evidence. And then, total silence. Nothing. They went right back to work as if nothing had happened. This bought them the crucial time they needed to dig deeper without raising any red flags whatsoever. Then came step 2. And honestly, this is where the magic of modern reporting software completely changes the game. The investigation deepened as they accessed the system's version log. For those who might not know, a version log is basically an automatic, time-stamped history that tracks every single edit. It shows exactly what changed and, this is the crucial part, the specific user login that made the change. The creator went in and pulled 2 entire years of these logs. They spent an entire evening exporting every single version of the quarterly model, effectively turning up hard, digital receipts for every single time that model had ever been altered. Moving to step 3, the creator compiled a completely emotionless document. Think about the structure here. Dates, version numbers, exactly what the number was changed to and when it was changed back. 0 adjectives. None. No angry claims of, she lied or she stole my job. By keeping it entirely objective, they removed themselves from the crosshairs completely and just let the data do all the accusing. It was just this stark, undeniable, bulletproof ledger of facts. For the fourth and final step, execution was literally everything. They didn't take this explosive document to HR. They didn't even take it to their immediate manager, who, let's be honest, might have just wanted to sweep the whole thing under the rug to avoid departmental embarrassment. Instead, they bypassed immediate management entirely and took this paperwork directly to our director's boss, the exact executive whose job it was to present these numbers to the board of directors. Why? Because you have to go to the person who has both the authority to act and the most personal incentive to care. That executive? Yeah, they had their own reputation on the line if those numbers turned out to be fraudulent. So in a brief, laser-focused 15-minute meeting, they presented a timeline exposing an undeniable, mathematically impossible pattern. The reporting tool clearly showed that the coworker's specific login manipulated the numbers exactly 48 hours before the board presentations, every single quarter. And then she quietly reverted them back to the real numbers 3 weeks later. The software provided a rock-solid receipt for every single edit, which completely eliminated any flimsy excuse of, oh, I must have just misremembered the data. This brings us to such a core workplace philosophy. The coworker thrived because she was a smooth talker, right? She was good at the room. She knew exactly how to play the politics and manage people's perceptions. But our creator realized something profoundly empowering. When it really comes down to a true workplace reckoning, you don't actually need to be a better talker. You just need better paperwork. The creator was good at the record. And when the room and the record go head-to-head in front of executive leadership, the record wins every single time. So let's pull back a bit and extract 3 vital insights from this explainer that prove exactly why meticulous documentation completely outmaneuvers office politics. These are the core principles you can take with you if you ever find yourself dealing with someone trying to take credit for your hard work or, worse, manipulating the truth. It all comes down to 3 things: patterns, timing, and framing. First up, patterns are always greater than incidents. Think about it. If the creator had only found one single suspicious number, the coworker could have easily brushed it off. Oh, it's just a rounding error, or, oh, silly typo. But a mathematically identical sequence of adjustments, repeating like clockwork every quarter right before a major presentation, that is a pattern. A single incident can be dismissed by management in a heartbeat, but a documented, systemic pattern, that forces leadership to act because it represents a recurring, dangerous liability. Second is strategic timing. Obviously, the content of your disclosure is important, but when you reveal it, that's often what actually dictates the outcome. By disclosing this information right before a major board cycle, the creator maximized their leverage. They brought it to the executive at a moment when the cost of ignoring the data was simply way too high. I mean, if the executive ignored the warning and went ahead and presented fake numbers to the board, it would be their head on the chopping block. The strategic timing forced immediate accountability. And finally, our third insight, and it's a powerful one. You don't need to win the argument. You need to remove the argument. If you march in there with accusations, hurt feelings, and anger, you're just inviting a debate. You literally invite office politics right back into the equation. Instead, just bring the data, build the timeline, bring the indisputable record that leaves them with absolutely nothing to debate. So the next time you find yourself facing down a slick office politician, ask yourself, are you going to try to win the argument, or will you bring the data to remove the argument entirely?